Alright, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be doing CustomTkinter. Now this is basically tkinter just with a little bit added on. So basically a little bit better aesthetically, and it also has a few extra bits which I'll show you in this video. But I will also show you all of the stuff which is really similar to regular tkinter, which is the basic GUI library that you get built into Python. Now if you have not, or you're not experience in using tkinter before, I'd highly recommend that you check out my previous video that I've done on tkinter. I'll link it in the description below, where I explain all of the basics of tkinter. Obviously I haven't covered everything in that video. I clearly can't, right, because it would take way too long, and that video was actually quite long anyway. But I've given you sort of a basics understanding onto how to use tkinter. Now we're gonna explore some extra stuff in this video about CustomTkinter, and you'll see how this one is usually the one you'd probably prefer in this day and age to use. Okay, now the thing about CustomTkinter is that, for one, it is not, as you could expect from the name, it's not built into Python, right? It is a library that's been built by another person, and you have to install it on your computer before you can use it, before you can even import it. So I'll show you now how to install packages if you've ever done it. It's using a program called pip, which is installed when you install Python on your computer. Okay, so the way we do it to install CustomTkinter, I've already got it installed, but it'll be the same process I'll just show you now. What you do is you type pip, so you have to go to command prompt first, you go to cmd, then you go pip install, and then the module you're trying to install, which is CustomTkinter. Just like this. Now if you click enter, now it will try and install it if it's not there, but seeing as I've already got it, it says that it's already satisfied, so I've already got it. Okay, once you've done this, you should restart Python or restart your IDE, and then you should be able to use CustomTkinter. Okay, so let's start off with all the stuff that is similar between tkinter and CustomTkinter. So the first similarity is, of course, that you import them the exact same way. So in regular tkinter, you would start by importing it as from tkinter import asterisk, like this. In CustomTkinter, once you've installed it, really similar, instead of writing tkinter, you write CustomTkinter. Now that's because tkinter and CustomTkinter are really similar in this way that tkinter is your base, right? And what CustomTkinter is a fork of tkinter. So what it does is it's taken the original code that is in tkinter and made changes to it and published it as a slightly different thing. Now that's completely fine, right? Because tkinter and Python is open source, and it allows you to then make changes, and then in this way I would say that it's actually made tkinter much better. The base functionality of tkinter is still there, but the aesthetics are much better on this version, on CustomTkinter. So once we've imported it, let's start by making our regular tkinter window. It's exactly the same, so we would write root equals. Now instead of writing tk, we would write ctk. Oh, ctk, like that. Just like that, and it's exactly the same. And of course, after you initiate your window, you have to do the main loop. That's exactly the same as well. So now I'll just try running it. There you go, we've got the window. And now you might see, first of all, that this is dark mode, where originally, if you'd done regular tkinter, you would see that it was actually in light mode, even though my PC is actually set to dark mode. Now, I'll go into this later, but CustomTkinter does have its own dark mode that works across the entire interface. It has it built in. We'll go into that a bit later. Okay. We've got the window. Let's start by adding some extra stuff, just like we would in regular tkinter. It's exactly the same. So let's say I want to add a label. We have to, instead of writing just regular label, that doesn't really exist. As you can see, it's suggested to me, it's ctk label. You type that, do the exact same thing with root, then you can enter anything you like, really. Let's write text equals hello. And we're going to put it on the screen in the exact same way by gridding it. Get it on my label. Well, let's do pack first. Let's do pack. By the way, if any of this is unfamiliar to you, please do take a look at my last video. I have it linked in the description again. You'll be able to understand what all of this stuff does. Alright, let's give it a run. As you can see, it is there. It has made it a bit smaller, so let's give it a geometry size. I'm going to do that up here. And of course, we'll give it a title as well. So we'll do root.title, my CTK application, let's call it like that. And let's also give the geometry size, root.geometry. We'll do same thing, 500 by 400. Let's go with that. Yeah, there you go. As you can see, the text has been created, and exactly the same way as you'd expect, we can change the font. Add some stuff like Calibri 20. Set that. I always like to start with that, so that's base font. There you go. And it has changed the exact same way. All of this kind of stuff is the same as you'd expect. The same thing also goes with frames. Frames work exactly the same way as well. You can just put stuff into them, pack them, unpack them, grid them, ungrid them. All of that stuff works exactly the same. Alright, let's start looking at all the stuff which is now different in CustomTkinter compared to regular Tkinter. And I'm going to start on something that I pointed to in the previous section, but it is the system-wide or interface-wide light and dark mode. Now this is something that is not in regular Tkinter but is in CustomTkinter, and I would say it adds quite a lot of usefulness to the interface. It's much easier than trying to do it manually, for example. And since many people these days actually have the interface on dark mode, it blends in much better. It makes it look a lot more modern. Okay, so it's really easy to set this up. By default, in fact, it will be set up. So no matter what your current interface is, like my PC is set to dark mode, right? So dark mode is enabled on CustomTkinter. Now, let's say I wanted to set it to light mode manually. How would I do that? I'll show you now. The way you do it is, anywhere in your application, you run this mode. You run this method, which is set underscore appearance mode. Let's see, it's come up here. This is all you have to do. So you do set appearance mode, you do brackets, and then you type in one of these strings, right? You're at light, dark, or system. So if I wanted to set it manually to light mode, I would just type in set appearance mode, light, just like that, and I give it a run. It will now be changed to light mode. And as you can see, you see the text here in the light mode, this text has gone black, right? If this line wasn't here, I'm going to comment it out quickly. So it's currently set to dark mode. You see that it automatically changes it to white, right? Now you can specify particular colors that you want for light and dark mode. So I've got this label here, right? Now I'm going to specify a color for it. So you go text color equals, and here what you can do is you can set a tuple. Now a tuple here would allow you to set a color for the light mode and a color for the dark mode. So the first element in the tuple is your color for the light mode. So in this case, it would by default be black, comma, white, because black will be used for the light mode, and then then white will be used for the dark mode. But let's say I wanted in the dark mode section, let's say I wanted it to be red, for example. So I'm going to set it as the light mode is going to be black, then the dark mode is going to be red. So now, just give it a test first. As you can see, in the light mode, the text is black. Now I'm going to set it to dark mode. I'll type it in this time. Alright, dark. As you can see, it's taken this, which is the second element in the tuple, it's used it to specify this color. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is how you can set placeholder text in entries. Now, if you run, I've set up this program here, which has an entry box and the same label that we had before, right? Now, if I run this, you'll see that it is an entry box, but it doesn't have anything in it. So you wouldn't know, actually, unless you put a label over here, you wouldn't know what this entry box is used for, right? And so that wouldn't be very accessible, I would say. I wouldn't say it would be very easy to use, because you can't know what this is implying that you enter, right? But with a placeholder text, which is some text that's written in here and then it disappears when we click it in, then you can know what to enter into this box. So here's how you set it up. So you go to this entry that you've made, and really simply you can write placeholder text. And over here, let's say I wanted to enter a username into this entry, I would write username. I'll write it with a capital letter, just like that. Let's see what it looks like now. There you go. So as you can see, there are some placeholder text here. Now if I click onto it, this disappears. Now I can write something, and now you know what this is being used for. Now I can't actually click out of this because there's no other elements, but if I restarted the program, for example, you see that this placeholder text reappears. This makes it really useful for when you're writing entries for stuff where you don't have to have an extra label to specify what the thing is for. Alright, so the next feature we're going to look at is going to be about hover colors. Now, CustomTkinter allows you to select where, if you have an element which can be hovered over, right, it allows you to specify what the color is when you hover and when you don't hover. For example, let's say we've got a button here, right? I'm going to run this program that I've created. So it's the same as before. Now I've just added this button here. Now, the color is currently some sort of blue color, right? But when I hover over it, do you see it changes? The color changes, right? Now in regular tkinter, you can't specify what this color is when you hover over it. You would have to use something called an event listener to change what the color is when you hover. But in CustomTkinter, you can. So here's how you do it. What we're going to do here is we go here to our button and we specify hover. Now you can actually specify whether you want the color to change first of all. Let's say I set this to false. Let's rerun this. Now if I set it to false and I hover over the button, do you see it doesn't change the color? Now by default this is true, by the way. And now if I set a hover color, just to illustrate the point, I'm going to change this to red, so you'll see really easily how it changes. So currently it's at blue. You see I hover over it and it goes to red. This is really useful for accessibility and if you want to customize the colors a bit more. So for example, this button is currently blue, right? But let's say I wanted to make it green instead, right? So what I can do is I can set the current FG color, the foreground color, to green. Let's call it lime green, right? So there's our current button. Now I'm not going to make it red, right? That looks a little bit crazy. Right, but let's say I wanted it to be a slightly darker shade of green. Now to do this, I'm going to get a color picker. We can pick an actual color for the hover color. Alright, I'm on Google now. I'm going to pick a color now for our hover color to change. Now it's currently this kind of color, which is quite a deep lime green. Now I'm going to make it slightly darker shade. I mean, I've only loaded up now and this seems like the perfect shade, so I'll give this one a try. Now you can try hex codes in tkinter. If I just type in here, the hover color is currently set to red. Let's change it to this one which I've copied over. Oh, actually that shows you, that's quite nice. Let's restart and let's see what it looks like. Now it's currently lime green. That looks quite good actually, I would say. It seems pretty clear that you're hovering over it. It seems really easy to read as well. Let's try also adding a cursor to this. So I can do cursor equals, and I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm going to try hand 2 because that is one I remember using, and it sort of gives you should give you a clicker. There you go. See, when you hover over it now, you can do this cursor. The cursor changes. Now that is actually a feature which is present in regular tkinter as well. That's not exclusive to CustomTkinter. I just want to add it just because it makes it look easier to read. It knows that it makes it easier to show that you're actually hovering over it. Okay, the final thing I'm going to show you in this video is going to be something which is completely different to regular tkinter. Sorry, something that is completely new in CustomTkinter. There's no mention of it at all in tkinter, and it's called a segmented button. Now, let's say that you are, for example, you're on a clothing website and you want to choose between 3 different sizes, small, medium, large. Then a segmented button would allow you to quickly change between those options without using some sort of drop-down menu. I'd say it looks quite easy. Like, it looks easier to know what the options are if there's a small amount of options. Now let's try and make one of those here. So I'm going to create a segmented button really easily. So let's call it my segmented button. And just like the same pattern for regular CustomTkinter widgets, it's going to be CTK segmented button, just like that. Let's create it in the root, and you need to specify some values, some option values for what you want the options on the segmented button to be. So just really quickly, I'm going to select as A, B, C, just so you can see what the segmented button actually looks like. Let's write it out, and now we're going to pack on the screen. Let's pack it with a padding, a pad Y of pad Y 20. Okay, here we go. As you can see, it is quite small, but this is what the segmented button looks like. So you have 3 options, A, B, and C. Now if you click on it, you can get that option, or that option, just like that. Let's modify it a little bit. Let's add a better font. So I'm going to use the same thing I've done basically this entire time. I'll do category 20. Just make it a bit easier to see. Now let's say I clicked on one of these. How would I know what I clicked on? That would be really easy, right? Because what you have to do is when the user clicks on one of these, you have to specify a callback or a command function. I showed this in my last video with buttons, with regular buttons, right? You can specify a command, and whenever this widget is interacted with, as in clicked on, it will run that function, that command function. So let's write that out now. I'm going to try it here. So I'm going to create the function first, right? Let's create it before we do this, and we're going to call it seg button callback, just like that. Now the first variable that needs to be in this is usually an event, right? Because whenever you click on a button like this, it will give its own variable, and that has to be taken in. No matter, you're not really going to use this variable, but it's good to have it written here anyway, otherwise you might get an error. So we'll write out event, and let's do print hello to start off with, just to make sure it's working. Segment callback. Then in the segmented button, what we have to do, we just go here, we write command equals seg button callback. So now when I click on it, it should run this function. Let's give it a try. So I've got it here. Now let's watch out on the terminal, see if anything comes up. There we go. Whenever I click on this, it runs hello. So now let's use it to get whatever the value of this button is. We're going to start by doing, in this function, what we're going to do, we're going to write the widget that we've got, which is my segmented button. We'll do my segmented button dot get, just like this. And what it will do is it will return whatever the value is at that current point. So let's store that. Let's say button val equals that, and we'll just print it straight away. Print button val. just like that. Let's give it a try. So now when I click A, it should, let me open this up, it should print A. There we go. When I click B, C, just like that, it really easily gets you the value of whatever you've clicked on. Let's try setting a color for this now. Should be really easy. We'll try FG color. Actually no, there's a slightly different thing for this. As you can see, you might be able to see in these parameters, you've got selected color here and selected hover color. So what we can do selected color equals, for example, let's do green again. Since I've got that color saved from the previous section, let's use that. So we'll go selected colors green, we'll do lime green. Selected color is lime green, and then we'll do, I'm gonna just click enter here. Selected, we'll do selected hover color is then that thing that I wrote earlier. There we go. Let's give it a try now. Alright, so when I click on it, there we go. We have got lime green there when we select it. Now when I hover over it, it changes to that slightly more darker green. Nice and easy. Okay, now really similar to the segmented button, in fact it actually uses it, is what's called a tab view. Now a tab view is basically, you have a segmented button at the top, and when you click through the different items in the segmented button, it shows up different little frames. So you can have one app, one screen, where you can click through the buttons and you get different sort of screens in there. So I'll show you what it looks like. Right, I'm just going to clear this bit at the top. So let's see what a tab view looks like. So let's make a thing called my tab view, and we'll call it CTK tab view. Really similar. All of the things just use the regular tkinter things plus CTK at the front. Let's do root, and this should create it. But the way you add tabs to this is you don't actually write values. You have to add them using this .add method. So let's type my tab view, and let's say I wanted to add a section called account, for example. Let's say I'm making a page of, like, I don't know, some sort of app, right? So we'll go, we're gonna create one called settings. Let's create one called settings first. Now let me pack it on the screen as well. So we've got my tab view dot pack, sorry, and we'll go pad y is 20. Here we go. Now we've only got one tab here, right? But as you can see, you can sort of see that segmented button kind of thing is there. Now as I add more tabs, more things will come through here. Alright, so I've added a few extra things to our tab view, right? So we started off by creating it over here with the regular CTK tab view initiation. Now what you can do is, where you add the tabs, right? Previously I'd added it using just this section, right? I'd used just this part to add the tab view. But if you use a variable like this, what you can do is you can save this frame that you've created, this tab, you can save it in settings tab, or this variable that I've created. And what you can do is you can then use this as the master for more labels and more widgets. So for example, here I've got a label here as a title, and what I've done is for the master I put in settings tab. So what you can see, if I run this now, I've got two tabs here, settings and accounts. So when I've got settings on, it shows this label, your settings. Now when I click account, as you can see, it shows your account, which is this label here. Using this makes it really easy then, if you have an app, to switch between different pages super easy just using this segmented button at the top. And with these tabs here, what they do is they act really similar to frames. They are frames, in fact. They're just separate frames. They get unplaced, and the new one just gets placed straight away, just like that. And what that means is it's just a regular container for your normal widgets. So you could create normal pages, and then they would really easily all be hidden just like this. Alright, with our segmented button, we would maybe also like to, for example, we'd like to edit the segmented button at the top, right? Because if we run this, we see that we've got the frames here. These have not been changed yet, and if you try and change them using options in the tab view, let's try like typing segmented button, this is all the stuff that comes up. By default, you can only change all of these kind of options. It doesn't actually allow you to change the font by default. However, there is a workaround to do this. Here's what you do. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go over here. Once I've created my tab view, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type it out, and if you do my tab view dot and then you do underscore, you can get all of the sort of underlying properties, all the sort of underlying what's known as attributes to this object. Now, attributes are a feature of classes, which I'll cover in a future video. And what you can do is, this is an object, right? This tab view that we've created is an object, and it will have as part of the object itself, it's made up of the segmented button and the frame. So what we can do is we can directly access this segmented button just like this. So we do my tab view dot underscore segmented button, and really easily all we can do is we can do dot configure. Now, once we write .configure, now we can specify whatever we want. We can change the attributes as freely as we like, as if we were making the segmented button ourselves. So let's say I want to change the font. Let's do font equals, and we'll do Calibri 20, just to show you what it looks like. There we go. Now we've changed these actual fonts. Now, any sort of attributes that you were able to change with the segmented button, you can now change them directly by accessing this segmented button, just like this. Alright, the final thing I'd like to say in this video is that I have not covered everything that you can do with CustomTkinter. It is a great library, and it has tons of stuff that you can do with it, other than the stuff I've shown in this video. Now, what I would recommend that you do after you watch this video, after you tried some of this stuff out, I'd recommend you go over to the documentation. I'll leave the link in the description. The developer has made documentation for all the different things you can do with CustomTkinter. Now, if you go to this documentation tab, it shows you all the widgets that you can use over here. All the stuff like the tab view, the segmented button, all that kind of stuff is all on this page here. And I would really recommend that for the full experience of CustomTkinter, you check out this page, because when you click on different things, it shows you examples, shows you all the sort of arguments, and this, I would say, shows you everything you can do. But like I've done in this video, you should give it a try in an IDE like VS Code. Just give it a try, type it out, because the thing is, it shows you when you create stuff like this and you go through to add your parameters, it shows you lots of stuff over here, and you can use that in parallel with this documentation to learn a bit more about what all the widgets can do in CustomTkinter. Guys, thank you very much for watching this video once again. If you liked it, please do leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more sort of content like this. Now, I am going to continue covering the Once You've Mastered the Basics of Python series, and I'm going to continue with classes in my next video. So if you're interested, please do stick around, turn on the notification bell to make sure that you never miss any more uploads. And I hope you enjoyed, I hope you found this useful. Remember to look at the documentation from the developer in the description below. I've left a link. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.